Hi, my name is Kyla. I work in casting at Nancy Hayes Casting in San Francisco, and I'm on a mission to help actors get better at auditioning, to help them stop making the same mistakes, and to help demystify the casting process. So, this first video is going to be all about really basic changes and upgrades that you can make in your audition in order to not fall prey to really common mistakes. So it's a little bit of don't do this and it's a little bit of do that. So if that's something that feels really basic to you, I promise I will make more advanced videos for you. But check this out. Just make sure you aren't doing any one of these, cardinal sins, and then we can go from there. Number 1, use a backdrop. So all the time, we will see a strong audition that is just completely derailed by what's going on in the background. If you're auditioning in front of a bookcase, I'm reading what books you have. If you have any kind of laundry in the back, I am wondering why you didn't fold that before you did your audition. If you have a cat loose, it's going to upstage you because it's going to be doing cat stuff wherever you don't want it. It's a guarantee. So no matter what, don't give us an excuse to watch something other than you. It's all to say, get a backdrop. I recommend this one. You can get it on Amazon. What we really like about this one is it's a really good size. It also folds up and folds down. So even if you have a tiny apartment, you can put it in a spot, hang it up on the wall. It has these little loops, so you can use command hooks to just hang it on. And then you can collapse it, you can get rid of it, and then you don't have to be the actor who has like a whole corner of their apartment dedicated to a studio or something like that. This is very pop up, pop down. We also like the color of this one. We strongly prefer the gray. The blue we just find a little bit aggressive. And we also have found that the gray looks a lot better with everybody's skin tone, whereas the blue can just look a little harsh for some people. The other benefit that we would argue of the gray is that it gives you more clothing options to wear. Sometimes, like if I were wearing this blue in front of the blue background, it could just be a lot of blue on blue. So that's all to say, we would like to tell you to use gray, but we understand that some actors really love blue. I think it puts them in like audition mode or something. So if that's your thing, it's not tragic if you're using blue. So get that backdrop. It is not expensive or anything like it. Just get something like this. And then we'll be watching you in the audition. That's the goal. Number 2, good framing. So I sat up there, you see. This is more or less good framing, if not otherwise specified. They like you to not cut off the top of your head, so just be sure that there's a little bit of space between the top of your head and the top of the frame. And then kind of mid-chest is good. Make sure that we can see your face clearly. At the end of the day, the audition is going to be in large part about your face, so try to really have that camera awareness and try to keep the framing more or less like this so that we're able to see you pretty head on. We can see your expressions really clearly. To that end, we also really want to emphasize to not film vertically unless it's specified. So film horizontally like this, like a movie, not vertically like you're filming a TikTok or something. Every once in a while, an audition might ask for a vertical. If that happens, don't be like, no, Kyla said not to. No, do what they've asked for. But for the most part, you're going to want horizontal. Another side effect that we've noticed of a lot of people being comfortable with things like TikTok is if you edit on something like CapCut, sometimes it'll produce a square video instead of a rectangular video. So just be sure to always double check the aspect ratio and just make sure that you have something relatively rectangular that you're sending in. The reason for this is on our casting services, the video upload is limited to a certain shape. And so if you have a shape that's different from that, it'll just shrink it down so that your height is correct. So basically, you'll end up with a really tiny video and nobody will see you. So try to keep it rectangular. You'll get the best chance of us actually seeing you. Number 3, watch your tapes back. This one feels really, really basic, and I know that, but I've seen very well-versed actors send me auditions that clearly they were either in a rush for or they were just not feeling it that day or whatever happened. In the middle, they will screw up, they'll start again, and I will get their entire unedited screw-up take before the actual take that they wanted to use. This means that either I'm in a position of needing to go edit it myself, which sometimes if I'm feeling nice or if I have a bunch of time, I'll do, or I will contact them and say, hey, please send me one that is just the clean take, not one where you screwed up. Or if we don't have any time, it's just not going to get submitted. So always watch your tape through. Make sure that you accomplished what you wanted to accomplish. This is also a chance to just check for basic camera awareness stuff. You know, are you well lit? Are you facing the camera? Did you ever look right at the camera when you weren't supposed to? That's a big one. Whatever it is, it's a chance to watch through it and actually give yourself some constructive feedback. Another thing that kind of goes in this same thing is to be sure that you've trimmed the front and the tail ends of your clip really effectively. So for instance, a lot of the times somebody will be doing an audition, they'll finish and let's say they're happy at the end. So they got this big smile and they go like this. It's like watching the sausage get made. You see what's behind the scenes. Suddenly you're watching an actor do an audition. You're not watching a person be genuinely happy. It yanks you out of it. You suddenly feel like they don't even want to be there. So you can eliminate it so easily by just playing it through, making sure that it begins when you begin and it ends right around when you end and not once the facade has dropped. It'll make you look more professional. Number 4, follow directions. I know, again, that this is basic, but again, the amount of times I've seen somebody awesome submit a take where they either didn't fully read the directions or they just went rogue is also pretty wild. What we mean by this is if we have asked for a specific thing in the slate, please do it. There's probably a reason we asked for it. A lot of the times, and I understand how this happens, an actor will have had several auditions that day and they had a couple slates that were pretty similar, so they just threw them together, but they disregarded the fact that we checked your availability on February 28th or something like that. And these little issues are fine in one person, but because we see so many people for every job, these little issues add up and it starts to make us really appreciate the people who followed directions to a T versus it's kind of a compounding issue when everybody has something that they did slightly wrong. And like we remember the people who are really awesome and really accurate and do exactly what we asked for every time. The other thing about following directions is sometimes there will be something that feels like a break from what we normally ask for in auditioning, but it's what's required for this audition. So just check and make sure you're doing everything they wanted. Do they want 1 or 2 takes? Do they want you sitting or standing? Sometimes they specify. Do they want the slate at the beginning or the end? All of these very, very doable, very fixable things. Again, if you do them, you come across as a pro, you come across as credible, you come across as reliable. And if you don't, it just sort of chips away at your level of credibility and your professionalism, the way that we look at you. I swear we're not that judgy. That sounded like really judgy. We're not that bad. But it's something we notice. So if you are the one who's always on it, we really notice that. Number 5, get a reader. We all the time see actors submit strong auditions with no reader, and it just is like watching somebody play catch with themselves. So they throw a ball, it lands on the ground, and then they have to go pick it up, and then they throw it again. And especially if it's a very heightened or very charged scene, you'll see somebody who's maybe doing great, they give this really impassioned read, and then they just pause for dead silence where the reader should speak. And then they go back to being impassioned. And what I was saying before, it creates this effect of now I'm watching an actor audition instead of I'm watching a real person have a real human conversation. And good actors who really nail auditions, they feel like real people. It feels like we got dropped into their world and they're just taking us for a ride. So readers prevent that drop of reality that we have. So let's say you don't have the luxury of having a reader readily available to you. There are a couple of things you can do. And this is kind of in order of like the best option to the least favorable option. So the absolute best is having a professional actor or somebody who does self-tapes regularly be your reader. These next two are tied depending on the quality of the in-person reader. So you could get an in-person reader who is not an actor, but they take direction well and they're able to really, hang with you. It's still going to feel like two people having a conversation. That's good. If you have an in-person reader who is not so great at connecting with you, who maybe just, it sounds like they're spitting out words, that's not going to be super favorable, and I would actually yield to this next option. The next option is getting an actor or a very well-established reader to read with you over Zoom. The reason it's not like, oh yes, the perfect option is because you can lose some of that human connection over Zoom, and Zoom can also lead to some weird delays sometimes, which can feel especially egregious if it's a scene that has like what we call rapids, where it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, like a fight or something like that. On Zoom, it can be very like, what? So there are some things you can do to combat it though. The first is, in terms of having that like in-person connection feeling, I really recommend deciding where the person you're talking to is, and you can use like a post-it note, some people use a tennis ball, whatever it is, have it there so that you're always looking at it very clearly. Sometimes when you're looking down at a computer or something like that, it takes away. If you're able to get the computer up there so you can actually look at their face, that's fantastic too. But no matter what, have somebody you're looking at. Really sell like that we are in this room together. We are talking together. It'll help me believe that this is a real person, even though I can hear it's over Zoom. Suspension of disbelief is big for us. Okay, so that's the in-person part. The delay thing takes a little more choreography to figure out. But what you can do if you're working with someone who's, willing to take some time is you can actually figure out how much of a delay there is, and you can tell your reader, ask nicely. When I say tell, I mean ask nicely. Your reader to say their line while you're still delivering yours. It's going to feel really weird on their end, but it actually can play really cleanly on the other side. So, they would be cutting you off like one word before on their end, but it'll actually end up removing the delay. Again, this is going to take some trial and error. It's going to take some time to figure out, and it's going to take some choreographing, especially how to get through those the rapids. But that can really, really, really help, so you don't have that like lag, drop, especially if it's any kind of like heightened emotion scene. All right, so those are kind of up there together. The next best option is going to be getting a reader through a paid service online. So that's if you don't have access to an actor who you can get a hold of, you can pay somebody to read the sides with you. It's still going to be done virtually. The reason why it's a little bit lower is you don't always know for sure the quality. You don't know how well you're gonna mesh with this person. It's a bit of a crapshoot. It can go great. They can be so fantastic, but other times they might not speak the same language as you in terms of like acting and in terms of how to talk about the craft and what you're doing. So it's a good option. It's not like the best, but it's good. The next one below that, which can be done well, but can also be done really poorly, is there are a bunch of teleprompter apps that you can use that can record your voice. So you basically would record your other lines in your voice, and then you would cue the app to say that line when you say this word. And so you basically have a conversation with the other character, which is your own vocal recordings on an app. Some of them work really well, but it can be really weird. It can be very distracting, or it can feel very like, oh, you didn't time that right, or oh, the app didn't understand the cue word, so you have to say it louder or something like that. So it's all something that would take away from your performance, I find, for the most part, because you're worried that if the app's going to work, you're worried if it's going to pick up right. All the logistics issues are coming into play more than just you delivering a performance. But in a pinch, that is better than silence. So do all of those things before silence. And at the very least, you will have a read that feels more compelling. It may not be an absolute home run. It may not be a total knockout, but it's better than watching the ball drop. All right. Yep. Checking my list. Those are the top 5 little tweaks that you can make that will significantly upgrade your auditions. If all of those are basic, if you're going, I would never do any of those things, or I did all the advice that you gave, we will get more advanced from here. I promise we will get more specific. We will get more into your questions. I want to make this so that you feel supported, you feel empowered, and you feel like casting is a little less of a mystery, and like casting directors aren't that scary, and like we all are serving the communal goal of finding the right person for this job. So you are welcome to put any questions in the comments. You are welcome to, I mean, yeah, that's how you'd do it. You'd put questions in the comments. But if any of this stuff sounds like something you'd like, go ahead and give a follow, like this video, and we'll be back here later talking about some more in-depth things.